Okay.
Hi, can you see us? Yeah, we're back on live.
Good.
Okay. Can you see us? Anybody there yet? I don't know, but we'll get Byron back on. Get Byron back on.
Yes, you guys are live. It's recording.
It is. We're just waiting.
I know.
So we're waiting for, as you know, our hour was up, and so because we had problems with the connection before, we thought we'd just keep on. There he is. Yeah. So.
Don't touch anything else.
Hey,
Hey,
Okay,
we're
good.
back.
we're
I don't
back.
know.
I'm all plugged in, so I'm not gonna run out of juice.
Okay. Our iPad got hot too, so it took us a few more minutes. I don't know if we're
Yeah,
gonna get. We had a good group there. Hopefully they'll get back on. But
yeah.
yeah,
Talk about the fashion.
we were talking about fashion and
Dress.
dress.
Right.
And
You can check out his
why?
his glasses. So that's fashion.
Oh yeah, you gave us a little fashion with the glasses. And
You know what though? What's so crazy is I have like 23 pair of glasses that I actually need to see. You know what I'm saying? These aren't just
Yeah.
a fashion statement. I have to have these so I can be able to read. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah,
So
I understand.
So why not? I say why not?
exactly. So
But I mean, it is a good point that you were talking about further. Why millennials don't want to go to church? They don't like church.
mm-hmm.
It's I don't mind it so much when they look like they just rolled out of bed and got on their pajamas, because I think, well, at least they made it to church. It's the club attire,
Right.
and not being able to distinguish between that and
But
Cardi B clothes.
Right. Yeah, I'm sure they'll give you some good feedback. It's going to be an interesting discussion. And,
It will be. I think it'll probably be my probably most viewed for sure of them all, because of course the millennials are much more astute with the internet than we are.
Yes.
They have TikTok, and I still don't have TikTok. I mean, once Instagram came out, I'm done. I Facebook, Instagram, Periscope, Twitter. That's enough. I don't need no more.
I know, and I don't even. I have to get my stuff back synced with Facebook.
Yes.
It's
Yes.
a job. It's
It is.
a job. I
It
feel
really
like I
is.
should be getting paid.
Mm-hmm.
Well, it is a job.
Yes.
It is a job.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
you know
So
what we find, and I remember, I'm not talking about millennials. I'm just talking about folks in our age, and they used to get saved. They come in, who knows how they were dressing, but as the word works in them, they begin to
but one thing,
show fruit.
Yeah, but Claude, one thing that I really appreciated about Kirk Franklin is even when, he came and picked me up from the hotel and he said, Byron, I want you to hear my group that I have coming out. Now, this was after the family. He said they call God's Property. I said, okay. And he took me to the studio and they were recording Stomp. And I was like, Kirk. And even though they were urban, they were dressed appropriately.
Yeah.
They were dressed appropriately. And see, that's what I'm saying. You can minister and have on jeans and all that, but you can't draw stuff like, I know I'm a muscular guy. I cannot come in a white beater and think that people are going to be paying attention to me talking about lift your hands. They're not thinking about that. They're going to be a lot of people going to be looking like, I went to go pass out the groceries today at the church, and because I had on a shirt that I normally don't wear, and all the sisters were like, oh, Elder Cage got muscles. Oh, if I do this in church, that's inappropriate. No matter how much I say I'm praising God, there's going to be somebody that's going to be looking at me. And if I want the attention to be on me, then okay. But if I want the attention to be on God, I want y'all to do like Kirk Franklin did with the Stomp video. On the Stomp video, they had on blue jeans and white shirts, but they were all appropriately dressed.
Yeah.
They were youthful and dynamic, but they weren't exposed. And see, that's what I'm going to be talking about Tuesday. And a lot of people are going to be mad at me because that's the generation. Where I live, I look at the young people walking around the harbor, especially on Fridays and Saturdays. It looks like a strip club. The way they come out, the way they come dressed, but that's the world. But I don't want to see that in the church.
Yeah.
Express yourself. But wear your Valentino. Wear your Louis Vuitton. Wear all of your stuff, but make it sharp and make it classy. Make it classy.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. I
Yeah,
don't think a lot of people know because there's not necessarily good examples.
Good examples,
And now,
yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
I've been going to church for the last few months in the bed, you know? So
Mhm.
if I just started going to church when I started doing internet,
I remember there is a. I mean, do you make a distinction between artists or ministry dress versus pew dress?
When you say
like,
pew, are you saying like PEW dress?
Yeah, PEW. In other words, if I'm ministering in front and then there's a particular dress that you want, and then or somebody just sitting in the pew, the kind of dress that they do. So you're making a distinction, or you putting them all in the same category.
No, I just want to make the distinction that there's a fine line between ministry and those parishioners that come to receive it. You know, and I would love for Chanel to join in at this time because
Yes, you could.
he's still from the millennial age. And a lot of the younger people, they want to express themselves. I get it. They don't want to necessarily have to wear the choir robe and all that kind of stuff. But I think out of the mouth of our younger believers, our young adults, you know, they have wisdom too. And sometimes I think I need to just shut up and listen so I can understand too why that mindset is like that. So I don't think that they're just trying to be loose, but they obviously are just trying to express their own self. What do you think?
I think some people are going against. Our generation has a lot of problems with church in general, and some of that rebellion has been coming in on how we do church. And there's also been this thing that's kind of been okay where things on the secular side are cooler than what's in church, right?
Mhm.
And so I've seen some youth groups actually put Biggie on during tithing. Yeah, like
Biggie's
Get Money,
song?
Biggie, the track for Get Money as the tithe is going around. So there's been
Get
some
money.
Offering for the
for the
offering.
offering,
For the offering.
tithes and offerings. So I think there's been this thing where in order to get people, the youth and things like that, there's been a compromise. And so when you tie the compromise as well as people kind of going against the church and not really feeling identified with it, there's been it's been worse. I don't always get dressed for church anymore. I've been a victim of that. I'll put on my sweats and I'll go to the side. I don't want to be bothered. I just want to go for my worship, and then I sneak out because I just sometimes just don't want to get totally dressed. But that's something that really is about me working on being my worship and my issue with people in the church. So that's just kind of that thing. But I think if you got a healing for the millennials with church in general, you would see us be more creative with our dressing. You have people like Pyre Moss, who just did didn't just do, but his last fashion show was at the Apollo Theater in New York, and he had a choir, and it was all about Black church. And so he's a millennial, and so we obviously identify and have a love for church and the culture of it, but we have a problem with some of the things. And so I think if you get some of those people who are really at the edge of fashion, you know, if you had a conversation with Pyre Moss, I try to encourage my mom to talk to him, because he actually, this is how big church fashion has gotten. It became a conversation with him and another big designer in Paris about the whole Black culture. It's just that people like yourselves aren't included in that conversation. And I think if you brought them in, you would have a trend that's like set on how you dress as a fashion forward person. That's not the big crowns or, you know, the things that we think is all stuffy.
Right.
You know?
That's a great point. And I say that because I'll never forget, I did the Jimmy Fallon show a couple of years ago, and I was invited to come and do the song that Chance the Rapper did where he sampled my
Right, yeah,
song, Holy, Holy,
That's
Holy, Holy,
right.
right.
at the end. Now, I had planned on wearing something else completely different, but because Chance was a younger guy, I knew it was not going to be appropriate for me to come out in a suit and a shirt and a
A
tie.
suit and yeah.
So I
Yeah.
came out in some white jeans, I think, and a black international shirt that was like very appropriate for the time because my crowd that I would be ministering to would be very, very different. There, I could have worn a baseball cap like he did if I wanted to, but the old part of me just said, okay, no, you're good enough with the jeans and just to be irrelevant, because
Got to
I
do what
think
you
I'm
do too.
relevant with them. And what surprised me, and I was, Vicki, I'll never forget when I won Soul Train Awards, and R. Kelly performed for the first time, You Saved Me. And I was like, wait a minute, I'm feeling the anointing of God as he is singing and he's ministering about everything that I had to go on through. God, you saved me from it, because whether you want to judge him or not, you know, he still is a person that has to meet Jesus for himself. And he deserves the same
Right.
grace and mercy of a loving God, just like the next man does. So I'm not in it like he's on his way there. I'm not there at all. I'm in the place that as long as he repents, God will he'll forgive him and restore him and bring him into another place. But I'll never forget hearing that. And I was waiting backstage because I just won the Soul Train Award that year for gospel music album. And I went backstage and Beyonce was back there. And I was just like, oh my God, I love you so much. She's just so much. And I didn't know that they even knew who I was. I was invited to come to her show in DC, and I went. And when I went backstage, their devotion that they were singing before they went out on the stage, they were singing, "The presence of the Lord is here." I mean, they were going in,
Whoa.
and they didn't know I was there. When I walked backstage, they all went to screaming like, "Oh my God." And I was like, wow, it is important
Wow.
that me as an artist understand God will make your name great and take you before great men that most people won't have a chance to do. So when I found out that R. Kelly even knew who I was, Rodney East, who is the music director for the Isley Brothers and also played for R. Kelly, I was just talking about, man, I wish I could get to R. Kelly to let him know that you saved me, man. I just want to know where he came. He said, Byron, R. Kelly knows who you are. He said, you know what his favorite song is from your album? I said, what? He says he has your album in his home, in all his vehicles. He has it on his boat. He says he loves Psalms 3. I said, what?
Oh, wow.
Because I didn't have to try to be R&B or go on their side. Let me just be who God called me to be. And then God took me into those moments where I never would know all the people that are blessed, or that receive ministry, that receive healing. I just become a yielded vessel to say, God, use me, and whoever's supposed to get the message, let it get out there. You know, even with the younger generation, that's why I'm having the Tuesday discussion. Because just like Shamil said, I want to make sure that every young person has a chance to get on and say, Byron, I think you're wrong because that. I can take that. I have tough skin, but I'm going to come back with scripture. I'm going to come back with a little bit more wisdom because I'm a little bit older, and I hope that they're going to be able to receive it. But I am looking forward to Tuesday because I think that we need to bridge the gap. We need to bridge the gap.
I think you have an opportunity to really change how fashion is seen with the millennials for this conversation. And I think because I know your fashion sense, if you really reached out to some of the people who are the change makers in fashion, you can take this to a level that just hasn't been done before, because the culture is different. Nobody's really set the standard for how our generation goes to church.
No, that's true.
Everybody's trying
Some people
to
don't know what to do.
They don't know what to do. They're trying to figure it out. Everybody's trying to do something that's popular, but you have like the last fashion show. It really was an homage to Black culture and what's happening in the church. I think we want to do right, but when you have people in leadership who are making compromises in order to bring the younger generation in, you're going to, have a compromise that trickles down. And you see some kind of like fashion with what Kanye's doing with the Sunday service, with the uniform that he's using. But there's nothing where I go to church and I have to dress a certain way. It's basically like I just made it here.
And it's a fine line because you don't want to turn people off from coming. Like I said, if you look like you had, I mean, I've seen people come in our church basically look like they had on pajamas to me. And I just said, well, they're here.
Yeah, yeah.
And
But but our time of growing up, and Claude, you and Vicki just a little bit older than me, but our time of coming up, we were just always taught to dress for church, and that was just our generation. We made sure when we came to church we had on suits, ladies had on dresses, and that was
Actually wore shoes.
that's how it was. But now,
fashion.
today's expressions, I think, are guided, and Shemel said it here. A lot of it, the fashion side of it, people get on the internet. They take their marching orders from the internet. I even looked at the Stellar Awards this past Sunday, and I think one of the most disappointing things I probably had about there is that there was no choir. There was no Ricky Dillard, there was no Donald Lawrence, and he had the Song of the Year. There was no Hezekiah Walker. We've always had at least one or two gospel choir performances. It felt so urban, and of course, everybody lip synced on all the songs, with the exception of Kiara Sheard, I think, in J.J. Harris's presentation at the end. I mean, Ty was phenomenal in the very beginning, but every time I saw the performance, I was like, wow, I know we had to do it this way because of the pandemic, and I
Yeah.
applaud John and all of those who worked hard with that. But the only thing I really missed was the whole gospel feel. So it didn't feel like a complete gospel Stellar Awards because we did not have the choir moment. And again, the pandemic caused us to have to do things another way. I get it. And I'm sure 2021, we're going to be back on our point. But I just make the point to say, I do want to make sure we accommodate the young adults, and to make sure that the millennial generation and all of those are included, and that their voice matters. But I just
Yes.
want to know where they are. Somebody's asked me a question about it's in your heart. It is in your heart, but I want to make sure that there is order as well. Because when we come before the Lord, we should want to come a certain way. And we should not want to be a distraction in ministry. We just should not want to become a distraction. We want to make sure that everything points to Jesus, and that, our lives, even in our expression. And here again, I know one of the biggest things that people are going to say against me, and I'll know it, I know they're going to do it, is the part that guys wearing the hats in the church. We have the Walls group at New Mercies Christian Church when I was there in Atlanta. And the first service, the Daryl and Albert, they wore hats, and a lot of the older saints were offended. So I asked them, could they not wear their hats in the second service, just to make sure? And they obliged. They had no problem with doing it. There are some churches where you can wear a hat. They don't care. You can go to Joel Osteen's church and pretty much, wear your hats and do all that kind of stuff. They do that all the time. But that has, for the most part, been for the multicultural and the Caucasian church. It hasn't been for the African-American church. That didn't really start happening. And Vicki, correct me if I'm wrong. I think William Murphy was one of the ones that started to change the sound of full gospel when he came with How Great Is Our God. After I did Shabbat and Yet Praise It, then he came the following year with the CCM sound, which was fantastic because it took the conference to another level, and we started embracing that music, which is a great thing. We did Bow Down and Worship Him, and those are CCM songs, and but which was great because it let the conference grow to another place. But the attire is what I want to know. Where did we start to think that we needed to look like that too? I guess that's one of the only things that I wonder. How do we look like that? Because being trendy is one thing, but being confusing is another. Like if you notice. Go ahead, Vicki.
Well, you always said you had to be sensitive to which churches, because Vicki always required the women to dress a particular way. And you probably want to share a little bit about Trinity, how the challenges.
We used to get beat up about Trinity 5-7 all the time. My thing was never, because someone was saying, I think it's Nicholas was saying, it shouldn't matter how you dress, it's about the heart. And I agree to a point, but there's a difference between being casual and comfortable, and there's something else when you're looking like Cardi B and Megan Thee Stallion. That's two different kind of looks altogether. And I've seen women with so much cleavage out and their back all out and everything, and it just wasn't appropriate. Some of these people really don't know better, and so you don't want to beat them up, and some people, as Shami was saying, are being rebellious. They're just being downright rebellious. Some people got on my case, but I don't want to see a gospel woman singing, a full-figured gospel woman singing with jeans on and camel toe. I don't want to see that. And I don't think it's appropriate. So just too much of a lot of things. And that's another thing. What is, you don't want to do body shaming. That's a big thing, not to body shame. But all clothes, I'm short. I'm 4'11" and a half. If I wear a big old gown and all, it's not, it doesn't look right on me. We have to have some education about what is appropriate without body shaming, but just using some wisdom that everything isn't. My daughter is so petite; she can wear a lot of things that I wouldn't even wear. You know, so I think that there's just a lack of education, period. And I think because hip hop has got so much influence, and the Cardi B's and the Meg Stallions and all that, that sometimes people are getting mixed. They're just really mixed up.
But it was before Cardi B. It was really before all that. People were. It was before all that.
Well, it's just like what we were talking about.
Shami was supposed to be in the choir. And she said, I said, baby, would you wear that to go to the choir?
Yeah.
No, I don't think so. That's
Yeah. I said, no,
because
you can't go up there and sing the choir like that.
Yeah, because if your club attire is your choir attire too, that's a problem. If your club attire is your choir attire, you think it's appropriate. It's just, and so I just want us to grow to that place. And I want us to, like I said again, be able to bridge the gap of understanding. That's why I'm going to talk to the millennials from that last chapter in my book.
Mike Todd, Mike Todd in Transformation Nation? He does clothing, fashion, based on the sermons that he teaches every Sunday. So for Crazy Faith, he would have really great fashion that he would put on there, and it was a little. It's definitely casual, but sometimes he would give you like a mauve suit, or he would give you stuff that was in a theme. So there are some people that are encouraging a certain fashion in church that are doing a good job, and everybody stays, fully dressed on their, within their church. So I think they're a group of people that are doing it really well.
Yeah, which I think is a great standard, because I love good suits. A mauve suit, that pink is great. I mean, I love.
You do well in mauve.
Yeah, I think I would do okay in mauve, and I'm not. I'm a man. I'm not scared to wear pink.
With flames on them. Do you remember the leather pants with the flames at the bottom?
Which ones? Say it again.
Leather pants with flames on it. I will never forget. It was for New Year's. You came over. I was like, that is the hottest.
But he was in church. Though.
Oh, that was in church. But that just shows. That just shows your range and fashion.
He wasn't gonna go there like that.
Are you sure? Are you sure that wasn't Kurt Carr?
You trying to put it on somebody else?
I'm trying to put it on somebody else. Was that Ernest Pugh? Maybe. Lord have mercy. No, but you know what? Right, but Vicki and Claude, you guys really remember this when we recorded Shabbat. I mean, that was a long time ago. But when we recorded it, of course, I was about 160, 170. I was a lot smaller, and I was wearing cutting edge colors, lavender, and all that kind of stuff that most people probably would not have worn. But though that may have been controversial to a sense, one thing that was never done was there was nothing ever exposed. I mean, I was covered up from my feet to my neck. Nobody could see anything from me, any of my body parts. I was dressed appropriately. And I guess that's one of the things I just want to talk about. And I pray, Vicki, you say, I'm not trying to body shame anybody, but I do want to just talk about the appropriateness.
That's a good discussion to have.
I want to talk about the appropriateness of how we deal with our appearance when we stand before God's people. And knowing that if the world comes, we still are to look different. Though, Paul said, I became all things to all to win them. We do need to become all things to all people so that we can win them. But we still have to have a different look. People should know that we're different. And if we go in club attire, we look like the world. And I just believe that we are to be separated, and we are to show the world the light, even in our youthful expressions, That's why I mentioned Kurt.
I agree.
He had a youthful expression. They were dressed a certain way, but it wasn't inappropriate to where I was looking at people because their body parts were out. I was looking at these young people on fire, and people had a problem with Kirk using that song. And y'all know all of the backlash he got. I'll never
We
forget
got
one of
beat up and beat down.
but don't you remember the Full Gospel Conference where, you know, somebody came one night and talked about him real bad and said he ain't of God,
Oh yeah,
they doing
Vicki
all of that.
followed
And,
that person
and
out.
then Kirk Franklin came up the next night and said, I heard some things were said about me, but I just want to say, are you with me? And the whole Full Gospel said, oh yeah, we have the church, we ain't going nowhere. Remember that? Remember
Yeah,
that? And
we
I
remember
said,
that.
now take that, because you can say whatever you want to say. You know, Kirk Franklin kicked so many doors in for urban gospel and inspiration that it set a whole new standard and a whole new love for young people to be able to express the Lord in the way that they did. And I think Kirk did it right.
Very
That's why I
important.
said that's why I give him kudos. He did it right in the area of how he brought in the way God's property looked. The way the family was a little more traditional church. God's property was more urban and more youthful, but they were phenomenal, and they were dressed appropriately, even in youth attire.
In ministry, you should always be dressed appropriately.
Absolutely, right. So
it's crazy. We've got so many new people that have joined.
good.
And we've been talking a while.
Mm-hmm.
But I just wanted to tell you, Byron, we appreciate you. We love you. I want to say this about Byron. He has been one of the most consistent artists, a consistent friend, a really good person, a person that has always encouraged us as well. You know, sometimes people forget that we need that too. And that's one of the things I love about you. You are a really loyal person. When you go on Instagram, you will see it. You will see it, and I praise God for you for that. And I know we can't stay on forever, so I'm going to tell everybody to go on to your is it Byron Cage? Just
Byron Cage, but no, there are a lot of fake Byron Cages too. It's the Byron Cage that has 72,000 followers. That's the right one? Yeah,
72,000 followers. Excuse me. It's got the little blue thing.
No, I'm not like Erica Campbell's 2 million. Gospel's 2 million. You know what I'm saying? If I could just get to 500,000, I'd be glad.
Jesus.
But let me say this: I love you so much. I appreciate you and Claude, and I appreciate you guys because, like you said, Vicki, you know, I'll never forget one of the times where, you know, Gospel Centric. That was my first chance to really get an opportunity to live. And I'll never forget being at Faithful Central when it was in the forum. And I handed you an envelope that had a check in it for the money that I owed you for the CDs that I bought. And you wept and cried and said, people just don't do this. People just don't do this. But because I had been blessed beyond measure, I mean, you're talking about, I was starting to make, you know, over $120,000 a month on the road. Not to mention, I was minister of music at New Birth and Ebenezer at the same time. I was making so much money. I was able to pay cash for Range Rovers for me and my wife. And I mean, it was just, I mean, I marvel during those years because, you know, and I'm hurt that the gospel artists of today have to rely only on streaming. We were able to sustain industry. We were able to sell CDs and sustain industry and be able to do records. I mean, when I look at what my budget was for my last record, Isolation, and I compare it to probably one of the largest budgets that I've ever had for the Live from the Apollo record, which was More Than Presence of the Lord Is Here. I look and I marvel at that because that's not what we are today. And unfortunately, the younger generation, I'll talk about it Tuesday, they will know success maybe of one song or two songs because it was streamed, but you won't get the heart of the artist's complete heart because you don't purchase their whole record. Like Love Alive 1, can you imagine in 1977 when Walter Hawkins came out with Love Alive 1 and you could stream and you said, I'm going to get going up yonder and don't know that Change is on the same record?
Yes.
You know, so I'm just grateful to you guys, and I'm grateful for the opportunity. Know that I always love you. I will always be the same person, the same way every single time, because there are a lot of people in this industry. I'm just their fans, but I don't want to know them publicly. I don't want to know the person of who they are because I don't want to be disappointed. I just want to love your music. And if we meet in person, it's great. It's fantastic. But I've been to some certain artists, some larger name artists, and I'm not going to say the name, I won't say he or she, but I was very disappointed that I reached out to an artist for a church that wanted them to come and be a part, but they wanted to talk to this artist first. And this is a mega church that has multiples and countless of thousands of members. The management tried to reach out, and I said, no, he doesn't want to talk to the manager. He wants to talk to the artist, and this is worthy of that. So if you can let the artist call me. The artist didn't call me like for maybe 3 days. Finally text messaged me at 3 a.m. and said, how can I help? No. I don't want to know you. I don't want to know you.
Wow.
Love your music. But my thing is this. We are family in this industry. And if Walter Hawkins had called and tried to say, I need to get in contact with Byron, he would have heard from me within 5 minutes.
No.
Yes.
Yeah.
Walters, yes.
So that's why I say I love some of these artists, but you know, I love your music. God bless you. I don't care to know you personally, because if that is your character, then that's who you are. Go for it. I'm good. I'm good at what I am. I thank God for 10 CDs in the industry. I thank God for 7 Stellar Awards. I thank God for Soul Train. I thank God for all of that. But I thank God for integrity. Have integrity, because it's going to take you a long way. Because the very person you're shooting, trying to go up the hill, you got to see coming back down.
That's right.
So,
Exactly.
I'm done, y'all. I'm about to go. I'm about to get off.
Okay, well, we're gonna let you go. And
Let's play a little bit of your song on the way. Can we do that?
a little bit of the song on the way out. I am encouraged. I think I'm starting to hear some new artists come out with some things that look like they might be exciting. I'm not sure completely where they're all coming from yet, so I'm looking at all that.
Mm-hmm.
But we're gonna we're gonna see it. Let's go on out with your song one more time. Oh, she's not.
It's called I Can't Give Up.
I Can't
Give Up.
Yes.
Right.
You got it?
Uh-huh. Let's start music. You are victorious. Say like this. Come on, take up. I can't give up. Oh, I can't give up. I can't give up. I'm not gonna give in. I won't turn back. I won't turn back. But God, you feel me to win. Come on, say it again. I can't give up right now. I've come too far. I'm not gonna give in and just throw it in. I got a road ahead of me that God wants me to go to. I'm feeling the winds of this. So the clouds there's still a rain. I can't give up because God's been that good to me. I can't give up and just get out of the line because God has got a miracle around the corner from his table this time. How do y'all believe that in this room? Say it again. I can't give in. I won't turn back. Because no weapon formed against me is going to prosper. I'm filled. So the trial of this still brings me to I can't give up. Can't give up. No, come on, say it like this, y'all. Never will I worry or complain. I won't lose, y'all, but I'm gonna gain. Never gonna gain. Because the vision will cause me to win. Yes, it will. Never will I throw in the towel. You promised you'd make a way somehow, Jesus. So listen, y'all, I've come too far now to quit. So I think I'll run on to the waiting end because you're keeping my mind in perfect peace. Yes, you are, Jesus. That's why I can thank you. Because you're keeping me, Lord. Here it is, y'all. Here it is. You're keeping me alive for a reason, Jesus. Yeah. My purpose and my destiny is about to meet up. Get ready to do it. Just believe. Above all I can ask you. Thank
It
you.
was exciting having you. We'll turn that down a little bit. Can you hear? Uh-oh, it
Yeah.
kind of went off utterly and completely. But thank you so much. You guys go out and get that single on all the channels where it's available.
On the album Isolation.
And
Isolation.
we will also remember that we have a playlist called Vicki Mack's Wax Tracks. And we're going to put that new song on Vicki Mack's Wax Tracks called The New New. So you'll be up on the new music. And we've got another playlist called The Movement. Right. So don't forget about that and crossover. And we will see you guys with actress Christine Elmore, who's on with Issa Rae.
Insecure, and also 20s with I can't remember, but she's on 20s.
20s, Lena Waithe.
Lena
Waithe's 20s. So we will have her on next week. Thank you again, Byron Cage. We love you.
Thank you. Love you guys. Okay, y'all. All right.
Okay.
Bye.
Bye-bye.